Hey guys, so my name is Aaron Molinax, and today I'm going to talk to you guys about an informative speech about how to correctly grip and throw pitches. This is especially for kind of like a younger audience through 8th grade and onward through high school. When guys get to college and onward, they kind of already have a feel for their pitches and already kind of know what's going on. Mostly good arm safety and stuff like that. So what I'm going to try to not make it too mature for the audience. I'm going to kind of keep it on a basic level and just kind of go through kind of like the normal things if you're starting to be a pitcher or more of a pitching role on your team. So what we're going to do first is kind of like probably it's the most common pitch in baseball, which would probably be the four-seam fastball. So the way that this pitch is going to be designed is it's called four seams for a reason. So whenever you're throwing it, you're going to get a backward rotation on the ball. But you're going to see 1, 2, 3, 4 seams, giving it the name four-seam fastball. We'll get to a different fastball in a minute so you can kind of learn the difference and see why it's actually called that way. So when throwing this pitch, you don't want to be too strong with it. You want to have good finger strength, but you really don't want to over grip it because that'll cause you to maybe spike the ball in front of the plate or just throw your location off in general and control. So what I go with is a lot of guys will, probably the most normal way is you'll probably put the two fingers over the seams, which is how most of us done. Some guys go off the seams. I'm not one of those guys. I don't feel like I have a lot of control with that. I like putting kind of the tip of my fingertips on that seam right there. And again, it's loose, not too tight. And some guys, what you'll see, especially at the professional level and high college level, you'll see the thumb tucked underneath. With that, I feel like that's a velocity thing, not necessarily a control thing. So if you're trying to go for velocity or whatnot, maybe you can go towards that and maybe just try it. I don't recommend just going out in the game and just throwing it if you want to. So what I do is I go with the thumb under the ball. I feel like that gives me control and I have better feel whenever I let it roll off on the end of my pitch. But with this, all you're going to do is you really want to get out front with it, and the basic function of this ball and the way to gain velocity and just good direction with it, this pitch isn't meant for movement. It's not meant for something to move or throw off the batter. It's just it's probably going to be your hardest pitch. More times than not, it's what you get the most velocity off of, unless that's not one of the pitches in your arsenal. So the backspin is what's going to give this ball velocity and make it stay on a lower plane. So when you're coming out with this, you want to get out front with it, and you want to really feel it roll off those fingertips, as with most pitches. So we're going to move next to the two-seam fastball, and this is where you'll see the difference in the fastballs. So with this, when it's going to be coming at you, you're going to have these two close seams together. Those are the only seams that are becoming. So again, it has backspin, so it's going to be coming at you like that. For hitters, they're only going to see two seams. If it was really slowed down in real time, you're not going to be able to react to something that fast enough to be able to say, oh, there's two seams on this ball, it's a two-seam fastball. So for this, again, it's kind of like the same basic style. I'll take my index finger, my middle finger, and I'll kind of rest them up against both seams. Sometimes if I'm trying to get a little bit more inside movement, which I don't personally really have, but I found this out from just teammates and stuff like that. If you kind of put that index finger, if you grip that alongside of your index finger, your middle finger on your index finger, you'll get kind of a sinking run to it. And again, if you're going to do something like that, you don't want to put too much pressure on the fingertips because then again, you're choking the ball is what we call it, meaning that you're going to get that spike result or the loss of control. So again, it's kind of like the same thing. What I do is I'll just go a loose grip. I'll put my thumb under that seam right there around it. I kind of hook it. And again, some guys will go thumb tucked like that. I don't do that. I just stay thumb on the ball, kind of natural. So the next one you're going to move into is the curveball. Again, a very famous pitch in baseball. Most people know that. It's a very common pitch among any pitcher in the game. It's either curveball or slider. Slider we'll get to after this one. So with my curveball, the way I do it, I throw a 12-6, which if you look on a clock, you have 12, and then you have 6, so it breaks in a straight down motion. Every time it's not going to go straight down for me. Sometimes I'll get that kind of that curve motion, kind of a east to west kind of feel. But so I'm going to take the ball kind of like this if I'm looking at it down, and I'm going to put my middle finger along the seam, kind of like if you're throwing a two-seam fastball, but you switch directions. So I'm going to put my middle finger, hook it on the horseshoe, and then I'm going to just let the index finger kind of fall right on top of that. I don't put any pressure on with that. And then with the thumb, I'm just going to kind of put it on that seam. It's almost like if you're throwing a fastball, you have the thumb under, but right here you're going to have it a little bit to the side. That way, whenever you're kind of coming across the top and you're going to have that snap motion to throw the curveball, you're going to have that seam. And what the most people really think fingers here, for me, it's all thumb. When I go over the top of the baseball and when I snap, that thumb is going to get more rotations on the ball, and I've found a lot of success with that. I have a good bit of break on my curveball. I think that's where I get most of my success. Again, if you're going to try to learn a pitch like this, just play with it. Look up other videos if you want to. There's different ways to grip things. I'm just showing you guys what I've had the most success with. So next we're going to talk about the slider. Very similar to a curveball. A curveball, like I said, most will break the 12-6 or the 11-5. 11-5 is kind of a left-handed motion. If you look at the clock, it's going that way. But if you're right-handed, I guess you can say it's a 1-7. But here you're probably going to get, if you look at the clock again, you're probably going to get like 2 to 8 break. And again, a curveball normally has more break. This is going to be a tight, it's going to have a little bit more velocity. And you're going to get, it's kind of like a swing and miss pitch that it looks like a fastball. The only way you're gonna recognize this pitch is if you see the spin. Most guys, they'll have a tight red circle from the rotation on the ball and the seams, and that's how some hitters can point out, okay, that's a slider. It just depends on reaction time. So for me, what I would do is I would turn the ball. So if I'm throwing a curveball, you have the horseshoe down there. I would kind of turn the ball about 90 degrees to where the seams are facing you. Those two seams, like you're throwing a two-seam fastball, the seams are facing you. So what I do is kind of the same thing. I'm going to grip, kind of like the same thing on a curveball, just the ball's rotated. I'm going to put my middle finger on that seam, let that index finger rest, but I'm going to put a little bit more pressure with that index finger. And I'm going to put my thumb under the baseball just like a fastball. So you can take a fastball grip and just move it a little bit onto the seam. And you just throw it normal. You're going to get the release point. And if something that'll help you learn the pitch, you can lead with your pinky. That has personally never helped me. Whenever I throw it, I drop my arm slot a little bit, which has also probably caused injury for me as I'm coming off of Tommy John surgery. But that pitch is going to get you a lot of swing and misses. It's going to be a kind of pitch that you can throw hard and effectively, and you don't really have to aim it. You can just kind of throw it towards the zone, and it's going to kind of scoot out of the zone or slide out of the zone as it gets its name as a slider. So the next pitch is the changeup. And what the changeup does, it's called a circle change. Where I throw it, you kind of make that motion right there. And what you're going to do is you're just going to put that on the baseball, just like that. And you're going to kind of let those fingers just kind of overlap the baseball. You're just going to let them hang there. And what I really do, I do a modified version of that. I'll put the thumb under the baseball and let that index finger rest right there. And it's almost, this is the only pitch that I throw that you kind of grip it like an egg. So like you want to throw it and you really want to be easy with it, and you're going to pronate more than you normally would on this pitch. The pronation is what's going to help it lack velocity, take a little bit off, even though you're throwing with full force. You're going to really exert yourself just like you would if you're trying to throw a fastball as hard as you can. And what that's going to do is it's going to take off velocity and it's going to increase movement. Just like a two-seam fastball movement, which you go into a right-hand hitter from a right-handed pitcher, but it's going to be close to 8 to 10 miles an hour slower. And this is going to really throw up the timing of the batter. When they see it coming in, most times they'll think it's a fastball, and it's just going to kind of, we call it yanking the chain on. You're just going to kind of bring it back. And it's going to get a lot of swings and misses, going to get a lot of looks if you can get it in the zone. But it's really just something, as I call it kind of like a bailout or a second resort. You really want to have this pitch for, okay, I'm behind in the count. I just want to get something that looks like a fastball, try to get a swing and miss pitch. So other than that, with the basic grips, just make sure that if you're going to drop down on the breaking balls, you don't let the fingers come under and don't let the thumb get on top. That'll put a lot of stress on the elbow, as it's done me. That's where I messed up and I got hurt. So just watch that, and just make sure that if you're younger than about high school, you don't want to throw too many curveballs or put too much stress on your elbows. That'll cause injury later in your career. So thanks, guys.